An act of kindness from a maid leads to a desperate couple's joy, but unveils a shocking family secret. The twist? You won't see it coming. Hey guys, welcome to my amazing channel. Today we'll dive into an intriguing and popular Nigerian movie that's anything but ordinary. Stay tuned for all the drama, twists, and turns. You don't want to miss this. The movie begins with a woman screaming for help and her housemaid, Magdalene, rushing to assist her. That same day, at the hospital, Mr. Kachi spoke with the doctor, who informed him that his wife needed a D&C procedure to save her life. The doctor explained that she had consumed a dangerous amount of alcohol in the early stages of pregnancy. Shocked, Mr. Kachi learned for the first time that his wife had been pregnant. Early the next morning, Mr. Kachi angrily threw his wife out of the house for terminating a pregnancy they had been trying to achieve for years. He told her not to return unless she could bring back the child. Devastated, his wife made a quick phone call as he went inside. Meanwhile, Mr. Kachi, still consumed by anger, was confronted by Magdalene, who reminded him of what the doctor said about his wife's condition. However, he shouted at her to stay out of it. Not long after, Mr. Kachi's friend arrived and pleaded on his wife's behalf. Although she tried to explain that she hadn't known she was pregnant, Mr. Kachi was too enraged to listen. His friend suggested they continue the conversation outside, leaving Magdalene to console her madam. Magdalene encouraged her, knowing her marriage was in jeopardy, especially since Mr. Kachi might go back to his ex if things didn't improve. The following night, Mr. Kachi didn't return home. His wife confided in Magdalene, assuming he was with his ex, but Magdalene remained optimistic, assuring her that he would come back once he calmed down. Despite her positivity, Magdalene's true intention was to help her madam find happiness again. The next day, Mr. Kachi came home drunk. His wife and Magdalene helped him to his room. Later, during a conversation with his wife, Mr. Kachi announced that he would be leaving the house since she refused to leave. When she asked when he would go, he avoided giving a clear answer and walked out. One day, Magdalene spotted Mr. Kachi in his car with another woman, laughing and enjoying themselves. Troubled, she went inside and advised her madam to consider adopting a child if she wanted to save her marriage. Hesitant at first, her madam eventually broke down, revealing her painful secret. She didn't have a womb and couldn't conceive. This revelation deeply hurt Magdalene, who promised to find a way to help her. Meanwhile, Mr. Kachi was on the phone with his friend, asking him to cover for him by saying he was traveling to the UK. During the call, he spoke harshly about his wife, unaware that Magdalene overheard the conversation. When he spotted her in the living room, he asked if she had been listening. She denied it and quickly left. The next day, as Mr. Kachi prepared to leave, his wife rushed to the restroom to vomit. Magdalene told her madam that her sister had similar symptoms during pregnancy and informed Mr. Kachi about the possibility. However, he dismissed the news and left, insisting he wouldn't miss his flight. Desperate and losing hope, her madam lamented that their plans weren't working. Later, Magdalene called Mr. Kachi to share the good news that his wife was pregnant. Overjoyed, he promised to reward Magdalene with an allowance and called his wife to congratulate her. While he expressed his desire to return home, his wife insisted Magdalene would take care of her in his absence. Months later, while Mr. Kachi and his wife enjoyed a phone conversation, Magdalene's behavior toward her madam changed dramatically. She became rude and disrespectful, leaving her madam shocked. Later, Magdalene admitted that she regretted carrying a child on her madam's behalf. At that moment, Magdalene went into labor and gave birth to a baby girl. Afterward, Mr. Kachi's wife spoke to the nurse, instructing her to keep everything confidential. In the room, while expressing her gratitude to Magdalene for the joy the child would bring to her marriage, she asked Magdalene to name her price for the sacrifice. But Magdalene refused, insisting she wouldn't leave without her baby. Despite her madam's desperate pleas, Magdalene stood firm. Heartbroken, her madam stepped outside to cry. During this time, Mr. Kachi called to check on her, but she refused to answer. Concerned, he reached out to his friend, who assured him that everything was fine. Later that day, Magdalene prepared to leave and apologized to her madam, explaining that she had accepted her fate. However, before leaving, Magdalene had a change of heart and returned, giving the child back to her madam out of gratitude for her kindness. She then called Mr. Kachi to share the good news. As Magdalene departed, her madam promised to transfer $10 million to her as a gesture of appreciation. When Mr. Kachi returned from the UK, he was overjoyed to see his daughter and carried her with great happiness. Years later, the family lived happily together, often sharing joyful moments. One day, while they were dancing, Mr. Kachi asked his wife about her strained relationship with Magdalene. She confessed that Magdalene's demands were overwhelming and revealed that Magdalene wanted financial support because times were tough. They decided to help Magdalene secure a good job, and the couple enjoyed a moment of closeness. Later, Mr. Kachi's wife resolved to send Magdalene the money she had requested. However, her husband became angry when he learned about the situation. Although she tried to explain, she struggled to find the right words, leaving him upset despite her apologies. Worried that her secret might soon be exposed, she grew increasingly anxious. That evening, their daughter Princess came to check if everything was all right. Mr. Kachi reassured her that all was fine. When his wife finally gathered the courage to open up, she confessed that her actions were driven by her fear of losing him. Confused, Mr. Kachi listened as she admitted her guilt over a past incident where she had refused to send $200,000 to Magdalene's mother, who later passed away. She twisted the story to conceal her own culpability, promising to send the money the next day. The matter seemed resolved, but it was a close call. One morning, a young man approached Mr. Kachi about a job vacancy. Although Mr. Kachi preferred hiring female staff, his daughter recognized the man as a hard-working student from her school and persuaded her father to employ him. Later, at the dining table, the family introduced the new house help, and everything seemed fine. The next day, while Princess was playing, she encountered a stranger who claimed to be her mother, pointing out a shared birthmark as proof. Although Princess denied the claim and kept her distance, the stranger insisted. When Princess returned home, she asked her father if birthmarks were a reliable way to determine family ties. He explained that many people share similar birthmarks, so it wasn't conclusive. Meanwhile, Mr. Kachi confided in a friend about his wife's unease whenever Magdalene was mentioned, suspecting she felt indebted to the former maid. His friend advised him to investigate further. That night, Magdalene's friend advised her to take money from Mr. Kachi and his wife to establish herself instead of focusing on getting her child back. Magdalene, who was struggling, took the advice to heart. Months later, after setting up her own business, Magdalene returned to claim her child. One morning, as Mr. Kachi and his wife prepared to leave the house, Magdalene appeared, determined to take her daughter. Although Mr. Kachi told their house help, Otito, to take Princess inside, Magdalene refused. Mr. Kachi's wife pleaded with Magdalene to come inside for further discussion. Inside, it was revealed that Magdalene was indeed Princess's biological mother. Despite Mr. Kachi and his wife's pleas to let Princess stay with them, Magdalene refused and presented legal documents. She informed them that her lawyer would soon arrive. Shocked, Mr. Kachi asked Magdalene to come back the next day with her lawyer, avoiding further confrontation for the moment. In their bedroom, Mr. Kachi blamed his wife for the situation. She, in turn, confronted him about his past mistakes, how he had deceived her, gotten her pregnant at 16, and abandoned her when her father disowned her. She also reminded him of how he failed to provide for their first child, leading to the child's death. Her frustration over his treatment of her as a barren woman finally erupted, leaving Mr. Kachi remorseful. The next day, when Magdalene arrived with her lawyer, Mr. Kachi's wife delayed the proceedings, pleading for compassion. Mr. Kachi's friend, Moana, arrived and revealed a shocking twist. Years ago, when Mr. Kachi thought he was with a stripper at a club, it was actually Magdalene, and she became pregnant with his child. This revelation led to heated arguments. Moana and the lawyer concluded that Magdalene's case was weak and advised her to leave. Eventually, Magdalene departed, leaving the family in peace. Later, a woman arrived at Mr. Kachi's house, accusing Otito of being a thief. When Mr. Kachi intervened, the woman claimed to be Otito's real mother. She confessed that years ago, as a nurse, she lied to his parents, telling them their child had died because they couldn't afford to care for him. Instead, she had taken the child home to raise as her own. Mr. Kachi's wife, enraged, lashed out at the woman, blaming her for Otito's suffering on the streets. The woman begged for forgiveness but was thrown out of the house. This story is a powerful reminder of the value of children, the importance of kindness, and the sacrifices required in marriage. It teaches us to care for the children we have and to support others when we can. With patience and wisdom, love and family can endure the tests of time. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this amazing channel for more captivating, educational, and entertaining Nigerian movies. Stay tuned.